Hello there. As you know, I just built my first gaming computer. Many of you will probably say it's not a serious gaming computer, or it's only for esports, or it's a casual gaming computer. Well, you're kind of right. Me building a gaming PC was really just an educational experience for me, just to see if I could do that and all the research and everything that takes to do that. Um, I would like to get more into this, but baby steps. Also, I didn't want to potentially break something really expensive, and I saw some decent deals out there, and so I decided to get the parts I needed, and that's why I got the parts that I got. I made an in-depth video talking about my experience and what I learned from my little project, and today is a summary video. Here are 10 things I learned and that new PC builders should watch out for, in no particular order. 1. The only real compatibility issue that will cause a headache is the socket size. Everything else seems pretty straightforward. But the socket size, you need to be very careful with that. Basically, different CPUs have different socket sizes which will only work with certain motherboards. If you use two different socket sizes together, you're going to have a bad time. For beginners, a case is really only something to store your components neatly in, and the size doesn't really matter as long as all of your PC components fit. As long as it looks okay and everything fits, we're happy.
Oh, fuck.
PCPartPicker.com is your best friend, but still visit the parts manufacturer's website to confirm specs and compatibility. And shop around. A lot of times you can save a couple of dollars from a different site if you're willing to wait a couple of extra days for slower, free shipping. 4. Don't try to convince yourself of needing something you really don't want. Or something that you don't really need and something that you just like to have because maybe you might use it later. So a case with like 6 or more 5.25-inch base slots available, that's great. But what are you going to do with all that room? After a DVD or a Blu-ray player, maybe a multi-card reader, and that's basically it. I mean, I guess you could install a fishbowl, but I don't really recommend that. 5. Make sure you have a strict budget with only being flexible with the components you get, not the total budget. It's really easy to get lost in DDR4 RAM at 3000 MHz or a large motherboard with 2 or more PCIe X16 slots for multiple graphics cards. But you should really have realistic goals with your wallet in mind and realistic goals for your computer. Decide early on what you want from your system and what you can say, okay, I don't really need that fancy new thing. 6. 4K gaming is gaining popularity thanks to lower prices. But just because something says it has a maximum display of 3840 by 2160 resolution doesn't mean you can game at 4K. You can try it, and chances are the hardware will still work, but the performance will be very, very poor. Also, for 4K viewing experience, you need 4-ish things to work together correctly. 1. Obviously the GPU that can reach that resolution. 2. A TV able to display that resolution, or a monitor, something to see it in. 3. A non-crappy HDMI cable that is capable of passing that resolution across at an acceptable frame rate. 24 is fine for regular TV shows, but not good enough for gaming, action movies, or sports. And 4, a 4K source. This can be a streaming service like Netflix, or an internal external Ultra HD Blu-ray player with an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc inside of it. And 4.5, I guess, just for good measure. If you only want to stream 4K, make sure your connection is strong enough for it. Don't expect to watch 4K shows on 5 megabits per second. Netflix recommends a minimum of 25 megabits per second. 7. If you can, make sure you have a compatible-ish second computer handy. Sometimes a component you may get may be defective. That it's rare, but it does happen. And nothing is more confusing and frustrating than getting your newly assembled computer together, turn it on, and then nothing happening, like a misfire. Having a second computer where you can interchange parts can help you determine what the problem is. And FYI, a computer only turns on with everything connected, RAM installed and CPU. So you may not know what the problem is. It could be the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM. Luckily, I got a motherboard that has like 3 little LED lights that can tell you, just in the general case, what could be the problem. So, or in my case, maybe the CPU isn't supported by your motherboard out of the box. Luckily mine was, but it states in the manufacturer's website, you do need a BIOS update to be able to install a Kaby Lake chip. Maybe you have to update the BIOS. I mean, I didn't have to, but I did just to get the latest. Maybe you try to install DDR3 RAM instead of DDR4 RAM. If you don't have an easy-ish way of checking parts, you're going to have a bad time. 8. This will probably take the longest, installing Windows on your computer from a USB stick. First, you have to use that other second computer I told you about to make a bootable disk from your USB drive, and then use that to install it. And usually if you use budget cases or budget motherboards, you can only use it with a 2.0. Now we're getting better with out of the box 3.0 compatibility, but if you go really cheap on that, you have to use a USB 2 stick, which will take longer. You may need the second computer to download a BIOS update, so think about that too. But once you get your new computer up and running, you should just download the latest drivers from the websites of those parts. AMD has this tool and Intel has this tool too. I mean, basically everybody has this tool that you can download it, and then it will detect what hardware you have, and then it'll send you the correct and most up-to-date drivers. And usually sometimes like a GPU, a graphics card will come with a CD or a DVD to install drivers from that. But they tell you on the sleeve itself or on the little booklet, they say if you have internet connection available, just download the latest drivers. 9. After you have your computer up and running with the latest drivers, you should still keep the boxes everything came in for a month or 2. You may need to return something, or you may need and it's also useful to keep the manufacturer's contact info just in case. Maybe you don't have internet one day and your phone's being weird, so you need to call them. You actually need to talk to somebody, not just chat or email. 10. If you want to stream but don't want to buy fancy third-party software, just use NVIDIA Shadowplay if you got an NVIDIA graphics card. It works great. I used it. Well, maybe not great, but at least it works, not like RE Live, which I've been having problems with, and I'm still in contact with tech support, and they're still emailing me back and forth. I'm trying to figure the problem out. OBS works great. That's another software. But just make sure you have a fast internet connection, or else your viewers will end up waiting for buffering. And we all hate that. That's it. Those are my three. Those are my 10 things that I kind of learned, and I kind of hope you guys take away from my previous video, just a shorter version. So thanks for watching. Bye.